December 2020 meeting, it was the first meeting. One of the first questions I asked him was school in session? His response was yes. He proudly stated he had the best kept secret in Trimble. I asked him about advising working parents, so we had time to adapt and improvise. His response was a shrug. And he didn't have the courage to ask me to keep his secret for him, to which I declined. Then I asked him how much school. He replied 2 days a week. At that point in time, I pointed to the survey results, which I had requested, which show 150% more parents voted for 5 days a week. More parents voted for 5 days a week than voted for 2 days a week. I asked him why he was ignoring this. His response, staff. He loses his staff. And then I asked him, why did you send it then? It seems like a waste of tax dollars. To which he had no response. Fast forward to August 27th, 2021. While I was out west on a wildfire detail, I received a robocall from Trimble Local Schools advising me that my children were now going to be mask mandated starting the following Monday. Found it fitting, we called at 3:30 after everybody had left the office. So I sent Mr. Hurd an email and arranged for a meeting. So on September 8th, 2021, we had a meeting. At that meeting, I asked him how he and the district was able to bypass Ohio SB 22 in mandating healthy children who are masked. His reply was, quite sternly, this policy. As of note, this policy is dated and adopted August 20th, 2020, before SB 22. I asked him if the board and everyone else had reviewed it post SB 22, to which he replied yes. So I read it over the other day, and I noticed in paragraph 1, there's a line in there that states public health officials and or in accordance with government ethics. There is currently no health orders. In paragraph 4, it states there's a line there as any requirements issued by state or local health departments. As we all know, there are no requirements by state and local health departments. So I have some questions for the board now. When you guys had a discussion about mandating masks, I'm really curious to know what studies did you, can you please stop it?
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're all right. When you had a discussion about mandating masks for our children, I'm curious, what studies did you reference in reference to the efficacy of masks? Because I have here in my hand a box, empty box, of what masks given to a student by Mr. Hurd for a parent at Trimble Local School District. You'll note on number 4 on this box, it clearly states, not intended for antimicrobial or antiviral protection or related uses or uses for infection prevention or reduction or related uses. Still curious about what science you're using there. Then, as you were citing these scientific studies, I'm wondering which studies did you reference in reference to secondary concerns about children wearing masks for 7+ hours a day? For example, children with young developing lungs. Is there any recourse to that? Kids learning speech patterns and phonetics. For adolescents, the most self-conscious point in their life, and adults, are suffering what's known as maskne. Did you consider the psychological effects, the social impacts, or, more importantly, the impact on their immune systems? Last year, my son had chemical burns on his hands from policy on over-application of hand sanitizer. Where do I send my medical bill to? Federal law requires the school board offer a waiver for families with sincerely held religious beliefs in regards to vaccines. I asked Mr. Hurd why he wanted to apply this to masks. His response was, COVID is a communicable disease. I didn't have the heart to tell him, so are measles, mumps, rubella, and chickenpox, which we are encouraged to be vaccinated for. There is precedent in the state of Ohio in 2021 for religious exemption for mask mandates in the school district. I've shared this with Mr. Hurd, and I'm happy to share it with you as well. The bottom line is, parents have rights. We have rights when it comes to the medical decisions for our children. Is anybody here a doctor? Anybody here a pediatrician? Is anybody here my children's pediatrician? I didn't think so. Is anybody here a theologist? Because I asked Mr. Hurd about a religious exemption for my children, and he wouldn't approve it because he hadn't heard of my religion or didn't believe it. Do I now need to prove the existence of my God for him to acknowledge my rights as a citizen? In conclusion, consider this my formal records request for draft and final meeting minutes for this meeting. I will end with 2 questions. Under whose authority do you presume you have the right to restrict how much air my children breathe? The second question is, how do you presume you have the right to deny my children's religious freedom relative to the amount of air they're allowed to breathe? If you cannot answer either of these questions directly, it means you do not have legal right to do so. Therefore, your mandate is illegal and null and void, and I will expect no ill treatment of my children or any other children that choose to go to school without a mask if they so chose to. That's the end of my speech. Does anybody have any questions?
kind of, at a certain point, you was talking about if we was interested, you would get it for us.
I got it right here, I got 5 copies.
Well, okay.
I think
I was
Mr.
like,
Hurd, Mr. Hurd didn't share that with you? That wouldn't be surprising to me. It's from Mayfield City School District. It is from 2021.
What, excuse me, what is it? What are you passing out now?
Superintendent precedents in the state of Ohio, where parents are allowed to exercise their religious freedoms in regards to how much air their children can breathe. It was from Mayfield City Schools. It says on top. I gave that to Mr. Hurd last Wednesday when we had a meeting. Any other questions? Thank you.
That's the only one I had.
Mhm.
That's the only one I
Oh,
had.
sorry. You had a question? Am I allowed to answer questions from back there?
Yes.
Are you aware of the ARP funding?
I'm not.
So the state of Ohio is receiving over $4 million in the COVID rescue. Is this school district receiving those funds? Because, okay, so in accordance, if you want to receive the full funding, you have to follow the NIH and CDC guidelines. So our children are being masked for money.
Yeah.
I've got studies, and I didn't print enough off for all the board members, but I'd be happy to put it on a flash drive and give it to the school on Monday. But, I mean, there's all kinds of studies. There's no empirical studies showing the safety of children wearing masks, but there's all kinds of studies showing the adverse side effects of adults wearing masks. So, you actually have to hold a medical degree to enforce anybody to wear a mask. And you're having our children mask. My children have medical exemptions because we have cardiopulmonary issues. But it's not fair. My children are the only two in Trimble Elementary and Middle School that are not wearing masks. And my oldest has been bullied by 2 other students for not masking. I'm here to speak on behalf of all the children, not just mine. It's not right that you guys are forcing something upon children that's not deemed to be safe. So you're basically experimenting upon them, and the next thing that's gonna take place.
I need to, I'm
Is a
sorry,
vaccine
I don't mean
mandate.
to be rude, but I need to ask. Mr. Runkle was on the agenda to speak, and he did. So if you want to speak at the next meeting, if you can get on the agenda to speak.
That violates our rights at Board of Education meetings. It is our right to be able to speak even without being on the agenda.
To follow, and we could go on and on. If we don't know who's speaking, we could be at some of these meetings day in, day out.
Is there a sign-in sheet that she can just sign in on?
No, we don't do that. We have not done that for a long time, but I will tell you, the articles that you have, if you wanna give a copy to
Yes.
Jared, he will make sure we all get copies.
Grab.
Well, you have to, you should basically have to schedule an appointment.
Yeah, you do. We do have a policy.
Okay, so one of these studies is from the CDC. It's the largest study that they've done on masking. They found that 85% of COVID cases were from masked individuals. There's 3 studies there. This is a legal form drawn up by my attorney. I don't have enough for everybody, but I will provide more on a hard drive to the state office.
Ma'am, can we ask for the record what your name is?
Tammy Williams.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
And Jared.
With that, I'm
Can
gonna
I,
kind of,
can I ask just a question?
Yep.
Jared, could you forward her the policy about the public participation to Ms. Williams, so she has that?
She'll give me.
If you'll give him your contact info.
Is your email address, Mrs. Williams, on here?
No, but I can send an email. So,
That way he can forward you the policy
okay,
for public participation.
do you have an email address? That I can-
Yeah.
Just give,
So-
he has mine.
Yeah.
they're not on the agenda, I'm kind of putting them on the spot. We actually have a person in this room that's very knowledgeable on masking and respirators. Jay, could you tell us, is, a mask fine enough mesh to stop any kind of, viruses?
can't go into viruses, I was in the asbestos field for many years, I can tell you that, one of these does nothing for small particulate. But what I will say is, if you're wanting protection for yourself, you need an actual respirator, you can't do it.
Right, I do construction, I'm a general contractor, and I know there is for specific respirators, you've got different filters for paint, dust particles,
Vapor.
vapor, things like that. I mean, bottom line is, you know, I'm just gonna, I know you gotta have a meeting appointment or whatever, but bottom line is you should give parents a choice to either mask their child or not. Because I personally, I've been around thousands and thousands of people in the last 18 months.
No mask.
Le'Veon Bell, for example, I done his mother's house last year, right in the
I'm
middle
gonna
of
have to
COVID.
stop you again,
Uh,
please.
well, I mean, that's fine, but bottom line is kids need to, parents need to have the choice
We
to
will
wear these
review the
masks.
information.
Cause you guys are getting paid to have it done.
We will, we will review the information.
Yeah.
Okay, please sign up if you wanna do public.
Oh, I will, and also, I actually had to pull my kids out of Trimble Local because there is no other options. My kid suffers from anxiety for a mask, and the answer to my other options was to pull them out and homeschool them. So that's what we're currently doing right now. The bottom line is you should have a choice.
Okay, thank you very much. Next is the health department update.
Yeah, before we start, obviously, Dr. Gaskell had a conflict this evening, but you just got a letter from him that I passed around, and Jack Pepper